One of the things that is so striking about spirituality, particularly as we move into the modern and postmodern world, is places that we don't think spirituality fits. We have very strange ideas about what's spiritual. A monk driving a Jaguar. Is an accountant spiritual? Is a woman winning the Olympic 100-yard dash, 100-meter dash, which you can think she's spiritual? A prostitute, spiritual? Mary Magdalene was. Good enough for me. Anybody got that phone number? Think of the things where we think spirit doesn't fit. It's really weird. It's all spirit. And so one of the things that we try to do with Integral is find ways that you can take spiritual awareness, I amness, into areas that traditionally were thought not only not to be spiritual, but to somehow be anti-spiritual. It's very strange. Weightlifting. We really have to overcome those kinds of notions. In the past, there was a certain appropriateness for it in terms of what needed to be done. In today's world, it's a hindrance to having ever-present I amness enter every aspect of your life. And unhesitatingly. Women in particular face this issue with beauty. A beautiful woman, spiritual, right? Even intellectual. It's pathetic. So we really have to do that. We work with a lot of different spiritual teachers who we're working with this. David Data, for example, does wonderfully well in working with female versions of spirituality, in this case centered around beauty, centered around even lipstick. The question is not whether you wear a beautiful Prada outfit and whether you have lipstick and whether you do yourself up to be as beautiful as you can. The question is, what's the motivation? And David and many of us use just a simple 3-level scheme will do. You can do this just for a narcissistic me. Egocentric. You can do it ethnocentric. You can do it for relationship. You might do it for your lover, your friends, your boyfriend, your husband. And then there is a way that you can take beauty and realize that you are being beautiful as a gift and the pleasure it brings to literally all sentient beings. The good, the true, and the beautiful go together. And that triad is something that's extremely important. We have a very difficult time getting spirituality into aesthetics and beauty. Particularly in the Western culture, for various reasons, the good and the true got on the side of God, and beauty got on the side of the devil. Now, again, there were reasons for that. But if you think about it, at this point, it's just silly not to be done. So it's very hard for people to take certain aspects of their lives and allow spirituality to enter them. There's almost a guiltiness about being able to have aesthetics be part of your life. And it's one of the things you really have to just gently work with overcoming. The same with aesthetics. Why would you, for example, want to look nice? Why would you want to dress up nice? Why would you want to have just a simple aesthetic? Now, just can mean, that which is pleasing. And there are very different definitions of that, and that's fine. But why would I put attention into something that looks pleasing, or aesthetic, or beautiful, or patterned, or harmonious, or balanced? If I'm doing it, again, just because I want to be beautiful, that's the egocentric level. If I'm doing it because I want to share that with a certain number of relationships, that's ethnocentric, that's the step up. And then the third is everything that's arising is the beautiful, perfect manifestation of the great perfection. So if you are in your apartment, for example, and it doesn't have to be expensive. If you're in your apartment and you are making yourself look aesthetic, and the apartment look aesthetic, and everything around you look aesthetic, that all you're doing is honoring the beauty of the great perfection as it arises. And since all objects that are arising in your awareness are the same, right? There's the room out there as an object of I amness. Nature is an object of I amness. Your body is an object of your I amness. You're aware of it. You're aware of all of these objects. Your mind is an object of the witness of I amness, big mind. So you are that I amness. You are that witness. You are not fundamentally any one of these objects that are arising. The objects that are arising are ornaments of your primordial perfection. And to arrange these ornaments in a simple, aesthetic, balanced, harmonious way is an indication of a kind of alignment with the primordial purity that you have. The first Zen experience I had was with Philip Kapleau. He wrote a book called The Three Pillars of Zen, which about 30 years ago was an extremely important book, because in this country, Zen had become kind of a parlor game, basically. It was what you discussed with your cigarette, espresso, black turtleneck shirt, and fuck you attitude. And as important as all of that was, the Krishnamurti Alan Watts side of it was, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to practice, you just basically, read my books and Philip Kapleau came in and said, no, it's practice, practice, practice. That's what Zen means, the practice of meditation. You actually have to do this as a practice before you can actually realize the ever-present nature of I amness, to really fundamentally recognize that and stay in that recognition. Now, Genpo Roshi and others have helped speed up that initial recognition, but you still have to practice. But the way you treat the environment and the way you treat your mind are the same. And if your apartment is a mess, your mind is a mess, guaranteed. I was down, a friend of mine used to vacation at Spa Rio Caliente in Mexico. And it just turned out that Philip Kapleau vacationed down there each year with 3 or 4 of his senior students. So of course I arranged to get down there the same time he was, and sort of brashly introduced myself. I was 22, I was just finishing my first book called The Spectrum of Consciousness. And he said, I told him a little bit about it. He was genuinely interested. And he said, well, we have practice sessions each morning. You're welcome to come. Now, I'd never actually practiced formal Zen. You have to remember, way back then, there were no meditation centers. There was no TM. The Beatles hadn't discovered the Maharishi. And the Maharishi hadn't made a pass at Mia Farrell. So meditation was unknown. If you had an experience of cosmic consciousness and told a psychiatrist, you could be legally incarcerated. I'm not making it up. That was a sign of deep psychosis that required institutionalization. In that atmosphere, there were maybe two Zen centers, and one was, of course, being founded in LA, which was the great Maezumi Roshi, who transmitted, again, Genpo Roshi and Bernie and Tetsugen. And that's the White Plum lineage now. It's the largest Zen lineage outside Japan, and the head of that lineage is Genpo Roshi. So Philip Kapleau, and the other one was the beginning of very, very small, not well-known gentleman at all called Suzuki Roshi, had moved into the San Francisco Center. And there were a couple others, Edo Roshi and several Sasaki Roshi, several pioneers. Basically, that was it. So I never actually, I was sitting myself quite a bit, going, I hope the thumb goes there, and I know the left foot goes over my ear, but I can't quite get that part. So I went down for the first time, and I have 2 Zen stories. And these are really Zen stories. The first was I came in and I was just a little bit late. Now that's already bad. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. and so everybody's already sitting there. Now, Kaplow, Roshi's not there yet. But all the other students are there, and there are 5 of them sitting against the wall. There's a door here and the wall here, so I just went up, sat down. I'm the 6th one, so now we have 6 of us facing the wall. And when I came in, I saw all these shoes, like just perfectly lined up. And I thought, anal retentives, every one of them. And I just put my shoes down, kind of, sort of like there, and then went and sat down. So Philip Kaplow comes in, Roshi comes in, and sits up front, and you expect the sermon to talk, and there's dead silence. And you know something horrible has happened. Something really horrible has happened. And so he's going to now give a lecture on this horrible thing that has happened. And he starts out saying essentially what I just said. The relationship to the environment and the relationship to your mind is the same, because your mind and your environment are not two. If you don't respect your mind and the environment enough to have simple orderliness and balance and harmony, and I knew exactly what was coming, and we got a 30-minute lecture on shoes. And what that meant, and I am sitting there absolutely beet red. And when you have a shaved head and you're beet red, it's like horrifying. I mean, because you can see it for about 3 or 4 miles around. That was the beginning of this thing. So then we're going to do this 45-minute meditation thing. And so we sit there starting, and I'm sitting there meditating like this, and I finally turned to, just basic, I went from bright red to all the blood drained out of my head. And so I'm sitting there, we're meditating, and in the door comes a scorpion about this long. And so you're sitting there, I'm the first one to see it. The scorpion comes in, we're all facing the wall, goes down there, and there. Philip Kaplow is the last one, and we're sitting there. The scorpion starts walking along the crack in the wall, right between the wall and the floor. So you're watching it, and many things going through your head. First of all, I hope it doesn't head this way. Second, and you're not allowed to kill anything, right? Buddhism, the precept, no killing. So you're sitting there, and all you're thinking is, what would Roshi do? Because you really don't want to mess this one up, And then what you realize, and this is the really outstanding part, is in about 2 inches, the person next to me is going to enter his visual field. And then he's going to be going through the same thing, like, I hope it doesn't come this way, and what would Roshi do? And you can feel it, because you know how sensitive you get to these things. And so there's 6 people, you can hear this like, click, click, click. And nobody's doing anything, everybody's petrified. And it gets to the 6th click, and all you hear is, whack! Roshi had taken off his sandal and splattered that puppy. That's what Roshi would do. Does a scorpion have Buddha nature? So, all of that about allowing spirituality to enter beauty in your life, and not being embarrassed, and not being somehow that you should pull back from that, or any of the other areas that it doesn't seem it should be in. From all of the things that we try to inhabit, from weightlifting to an aesthetic appearance. And I think it's just extremely important. And the good, the true, and the beautiful go together deeply. And I think it's no accident that came from the early Greek culture. And the guys that were doing that basically were gay. And so we got a little, thank God, feminine influence. Because if it was all men, it would be the good, the true, and the drab. And so fortunately, we got the good, the true, and the beautiful, and that became a real foundation stone. We want to try to include all of those. They really are another way of saying art, artistic expression, interior, that's aesthetics. And then we, the good, morals, and then true, objective truth. And so all of those are the 4 quadrants. And so we want to kind of include those as well.